There is a next wave of tools that is going to allow a lot more sophisticated involvement of a lot more people in things from everything from solving strategies of companies to solving policies and ultimate solutions for the whole way countries can even work. And the basic way to think about it is it's kind of similar. I don't think the financing works as much in your context here. It does for social kind of context, which you're going to see the financing of these things. But the main thing you're going to watch is there's a shift from what used to be always the core insiders figuring out solutions, whether it was, again, company strategy or ultimately policy for the country, and kind of the old way of doing it, physical meetings, and then once you figure out something, get it out through press releases and things like that, to essentially a way that you're going to watch, again, the financing a little bit different for you guys, but you're gauging a much larger, and when I say much larger, like tens of thousands of potential people involved, and then ultimately leveraging these new, the new tools of the web here. Now, what I've been doing the last 18 months, since essentially the election, is I formed a company that actually has been working on a new way to solve big, complex problems fast. And Mikhail was mentioning how it's all about speed right now. The world actually faces these incredibly complex problems like how do you shift to clean energy, how do you deal with climate change. The old ways of figuring this out in a little government task force or something are just completely overwhelmed. You need to engage tens of thousands of experts from all over the world to get anywhere close to solving a problem of that kind of complexity. That's my motivation on this thing. But the actual applications apply to private companies as well. Is you've got to basically do two things. You've got to essentially figure out a way to get all the good work that comes together in physical meetings like this and connect it into this online world. And once you get there, you need essentially next generation collaboration. Not the old way of just doing email, occasional kind of things that we did in discussion groups, but the next more sophisticated collaboration. Coming from Silicon Valley, there is an explosion of new work around web collaboration is the general way to think about it. It's kind of like the way social networking was 4 years ago, where there was a ton of new companies. People generally didn't understand what social networking was, but ultimately had this huge impact that we are very clear about today. This is the same thing that's happening around web collaboration. One of the big companies is Google Wave, and the technology folks, you may have heard about this kind of Google Wave. Google has put their top team for the last 2 years on a thing essentially developing a new platform called Google Wave. And essentially it is a collaboration system that allows very nuanced, very sophisticated collaboration. And it's essentially a platform that allows all kinds of these apps, like a kind of Apple iPhone apps, to do little pieces of collaboration. Well, I'm going to figure out a way to do a whiteboard. I'm going to figure out a way to vote. I'm going to figure out a way to do all the little nuanced things you have to do in face-to-face communication. Other companies are springing up, though. This is Mark Andreessen, was the Netscape guy, Ning guy. This is the co-founder of Facebook. They're starting all these kind of new companies in web collaboration. I'm just kind of saying this, that there is a kind of a next trend of web collaboration that you guys are now in the forefront. Microsoft, IBM, the companies you're aligned with have their own versions of this. And what I'm just saying is there is a new kind of updraft now in web collaboration that's going to happen. And what's going to happen is they have to figure out ways to get all the decisions out of just the few and the small kind of group of consultants and figure out a way that how do you start to get a much larger pool of human resources? All your employees, all your kind of, even ultimately to the public, to a lot of different people here. To do that, you have to figure out how do you get everything going on here amongst your 300 top people in the company and get them to actually get all 20,000 people working on it here. You can't have all 20,000 here. You guys can't spend all your time on cyberspace. How do you do that? Because some things have to be done physically. Trust, bonding, drinking, playing casino last night, getting to know your folks differently. But on the other hand, there's some things you just cannot do except online. You cannot get tens of thousands of people working online. So the way to do this is video. And this is why there's a new way. I mean, if you notice here, there's all these different cameras. What you have to do is start, because video is cheap, and there's a next kind of generation of kind of web-savvy video journalist types, you're able to capture much more nuance of what happens, get it onto the web, so that the people on the web can build off what happens in these environments to really do sophisticated, be up to speed. So they're not just ancillary, they're not just kind of unrelated to what happens here. They have to know, what are you thinking here? What are the leadership thinking? What are your ideas? What's coming out of these working groups? They have to get it. They have to feel it. They have to feel like it's open and connected to it. I get it. I'm there. in order for them to do anything significant and to really give you the kind of value you want later on. And so that's what you need, is that video. Ultimately, it allows you to kind of link these two worlds. Another good kind of attribute of this next era is showing that you're not just a closed room, you're not just the kind of elite executives, but in fact, you're opening this whole thing to the whole process. Now, what we've done here is we've built it on Google Wave. Video platform is another level. Our platform goes on top of that, but this is your Société one. And so from our point of view, there's a larger way to weave over the future. I think you'll be thinking about this. How do you weave from the offline physical meetings to online kind of involvement? How do you go back into the offline, back into the online? There's a way to kind of take large, complicated problems and drive through, ultimately, to much more sophisticated solutions. And we're basically saying, through the video here, we're going to package that in a way that actually is easily digestible, many different entertaining, interesting ways that your entire company can then basically understand what's going on there. You really want people to understand, fully engage, and want real serious feedback on? This is the way to do it. It's on a platform that allows hundreds of people, thousands of people to scale up problem solving in your company. This is the way you got to go.